What is going on, everybody? Here with a double dose of Prime Sports World, presenting college football showdown week 9 here on the horizon for us with my main man Christian Simpson and Matt James. I'm your host, Israel Rivera. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast at Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And in case you missed us, you catch us on all streaming platforms where podcasts can be heard, ladies and gentlemen. But my God, guys, I was just on the show with Matt James. Arizona Diamondbacks showing out right now, baby. And what's going on with you, boys?
Yeah, this should definitely be an interesting World Series. I think it's two teams that nobody expected to be here, but I just want to tip my cap to the Houston Astros. I mean, to the Texas Rangers, because they sent the Houston Astros home. I love it.
I was gonna say.
Anyways, man, look, man, we got a good show here for college football here, man. Can you guys believe it's week 9? We're almost 3/4 through the season, as we're getting down to the last few games here before the season is over with. So all these games are pretty much counting for some teams here as we come up on week 9, man.
Yeah, and you know what I always call the month of November in college football? Statement November. This is your final opportunities to really show the committee why you deserve to be a playoff team.
Absolutely,
100%.
Man. So let's get it going real fast here, guys. Week 8 takeaways, man. Number 2, Ohio State winning a defensive battle versus number 7, Penn State in the shoe. 20-12. Kyle McCord, 22 of 35, 286 yards and a touchdown. Drew Aller really didn't get it going. 18 of 42, 191 yards, a touchdown. They didn't really get the ground game going as well for Penn State between Singleton and Katron Allen. Maya Williams with the lone touchdown on the ground. 24 carries, 62 yards and a touchdown. But Marvin Harrison Jr. Maserati Marv. As TJ was dreading Gus Johnson saying Maserati Marv every time he caught the ball. 11 catches, 162 yards, a touchdown. He could not be stopped. This is back-to-back years in which Maserati Marv killed Penn State in back-to-back years. He did it last year in Happy Valley, and he did it this year in the shoe. I think last year was 185 yards and a touchdown. This year's 162 yards and a touchdown. Shooting himself right into, I'm thinking he's going to shoot himself right into the Heisman rankings. Guys, how do you guys feel about this game? I'll start with Christian.
To be honest with you, I wasn't really impressed with either team. You know, because neither team could really get it going offensively. But remember what I said this would come down to. What team could create more down the field with explosive plays? And that was definitely Ohio State. Penn State, the running game got bottled up, and Ohio State dared Drew Aller to beat them. Both defenses rose to the occasion, but just after watching this game, the Michigan Wolverines are leaps and bounds better than both of these teams.
Both of them. Yeah. Matt.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, both these teams need to step their game up to Michigan's level right now. I mean, this was, slower than low type of game. I mean, both offenses didn't get it together outside of, McCord finding Marvin Harrison Jr., who's, the next level receiver, as we know, hopefully for the Bears. Just saying. Sorry is, but I mean, outside of that, I mean, both running games didn't get it going. I mean, it's just one of those typical whatever. All right, cool. Whatever type of games. We're kind of expecting a little bit more from the run games. A couple more, explosive plays from, the receivers outside of Marvin Harrison. I mean, Stover had, a couple catches that were nice, but outside of that, I mean, Penn State kind of didn't even, come out like we thought they could have. So, I mean, we'll see what happens in the upcoming weeks with both teams.
That third quarter was
I mean, it was just kind of boring.
It was horrible football. It was like turnover on downs, muff punt here. Neither offense could get it going. I expected more out of Penn State's running game than anything. They only had 49 yards on the ground. Like I said, Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton just couldn't get it going. But that's a testament to the defensive line. They, were winning the battle in the trenches. JTT had a pretty good game.
He did it again.
Yeah, he did it again.
I told you guys. Penn State needed to know where JTT was at all times, because I remember when he took that game over last year in Happy Valley, and I'm like, okay, you may want to put someone over there in his direction. Throw someone over there in his vicinity. Well, even if it's additional blockers, or if one of these running backs can pick him up and block him, you just don't leave him on the barricade by himself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he had a big sack in this game as well. And Tommy Eichenberg, one of the best linebackers in the nation, had a good game in this game. But the thing is with JTT is just like he just disrupts everything.
He does.
Defensive line.
He does. If I could think of someone, he kind of reminds me almost of like a more explosive Eric Kendricks. A guy that can do a little bit more, a little more versatile. That's probably the only comparison I think I could really come up with, Izzy.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do agree with both of you guys. I think that Michigan's better than both of these teams leaps and bounds. We'll see what happens when they face each other. But yeah, this was a defensive battle. Last year was more of an offensive scoring show. I expected a little bit more out of Drew Allar in this game. He really just couldn't get it going, but the offensive line just, couldn't give him enough time to get the wide receivers going. So kudos to Ohio State winning at the shoe. Next takeaway I got from number 4 Florida State. They took over late against number 16 Duke. And really that game was interesting because really Duke was in it all the way up until late in the third quarter when Riley Leonard got hurt and he couldn't go anymore. And Leonard wanted to go back on that field and play. And I got to commend him. He was 7 to 16, 69 yards, an interception. But Riley Leonard when he was out there, they had the lead. And Florida State didn't, they just couldn't. It seemed like that running game was going just because of Riley Leonard's that threat of him running set up, Jaquez Moore and Jordan Waters and those guys. Once Henry Beeline got in the game, it was pretty much a wrap. Florida State really just rattled that kid. And it was over with. Jordan Travis with another good game, 27 to 36, 268, 2 touchdowns. He had a good game on the ground too, 10 carries, 62 yards and a touchdown. Johnny Wilson, 5 catches, 58 yards, no touchdowns. I think Johnny Wilson left the game a little early too as well with an injury. And then Keon Coleman, 2 receptions, 54 yards. Everybody was pretty much catching that football. Lawrence Tuafili, who pretty much put the needle that broke the haystack there, and ice the game with his run as well, down into the red zone, which set up, I believe, a touchdown there by Florida State. So, but yeah, man, what do you guys think's thoughts, Christian?
Duke is a good football team. I mean, look, let's not take that away from them. And I love what Mike Elko was really building out there with this program. And give it, like you said, give a lot of kudos to Riley Leonard trying to battle through, but unfortunately he just couldn't finish the game. But Florida State, they're a contender for a reason. Yeah, Izzy, since the summer, I was high on this Florida State team, and so far they're making me look really good. Mike Norvell is really making the most of what he has around him in Tallahassee. The battle tested teams always find ways to win, and I think that's what you saw with Florida State here.
Absolutely, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Florida State, I mean, they're a college football playoff team. Duke, as I said last week, will give them fits, but they did it in a different way. They're, the quarterback, Leonard, I mean, he, did his thing and kept them in the game until halftime. But, I mean, Florida State has talent on the next level that can do that in the second half and pull away from these games. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I think Duke's a really good team. I think if Riley Leonard was able to continue and play and didn't have that ankle injury, that lower leg injury, I think Duke might have pulled the upset in Tallahassee. That's just me. All the momentum was going towards Duke, and Florida State just didn't have an answer for the run game that Duke was giving them. Once Henry Beeling got in, they just knew what to do. I mean, just the threat of not having a guy like Riley Leonard to possibly run that football, kind of hurt them a little bit. So they lost momentum when they lost their signal caller. But yeah, Florida State, I give them credit, man. They pulled away late like a championship level team is supposed to do. Next takeaway, we got number 11, Alabama, keeping their playoff hopes alive with the big win versus number 17, Tennessee, 34-20. We had on the Tennessee side, you had Joe Milton, 28-41, 271 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had an excellent first half as Tennessee got up 20-7 going into halftime. And then Alabama scored 27 unanswered from the third quarter on, really to ice this game. Jalen Milroe, another quality start, 14-21, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns and interceptions, getting it done in the pocket. But, I think, when I look at it, Chase McClellan, 27 carries, 115 yards, and a touchdown. I think Alabama has another star running back here in the fold in Chase McClellan, man. And you got to see some of those wide receivers, Jermaine Burton, Isaiah Bond, Kendrick Law, especially Jermaine Burton and Isaiah Bond, really step it up in that second half, catching some passes from Jalen Milroe and helping them out. And then on the Tennessee side, Squirrel White, 10 receptions, 111 yards, 1 touchdown. Did a lot of his work early on in the first half. But yeah, Alabama, man, really impressed me in that second half, pulling away.
Yeah, same here, because when I look at the first half, it seemed like Tennessee was picking up where they left off in last year's game. Because what was the problem in last season's game between these two on the third Saturday in October? Alabama and the inability to do what? Stop the explosive play down the field. I mean, Jalen Hyatt had a field day for them. And Joe Milton, man, I could watch him throw the ball all day long. I think he may have the strongest arm in the country. He puts that ball into tight windows, and he puts it only to where his intended receiver can get it. He throws his receiver open. So when there's multiple guys around his intended receiver, he'll slightly throw the ball a little over their head so his receiver can make a play on the ball. And, Tennessee played a great first half of football, but to beat a team like Alabama, you need to play for all 60 minutes. You're not going to beat them playing 30 minutes, and that's exactly what you saw. And what do I always tell you, Izzy and Matt?
Yes, sir.
The team that makes the better adjustments at the half will win the football game, and that was Alabama on Saturday.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you got to play a full game of football. I mean, the halftime adjustments by Nick Saban is what won this game. I mean, you have the better coach that knows adversity in these situations. I mean, Tennessee came out, firing, smacked them in the mouth, but Nick Saban didn't allow them to, lose this game. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he came out second half knowing how to win this game, and he told his players that probably in the locker room. I mean, I want to know what he said in the locker room. Like, hey, we've been here before. I know how this goes. We're gonna win this game. All
And
right,
on
cool.
top
You're
of
down
that,
2 touchdowns, and you say that to Tennessee. Yeah,
and on top of that, how often is it that Nick Saban loses to the same opponent in back-to-back years?
Not often.
exactly.
Not often. That was a hell of a game. I really was impressed by Alabama. I'm starting to really believe that they're the best one-loss team in the nation. To be honest, I know we
Yeah,
got Oregon out there. I know we got Texas out there. But I'm really starting to really believe that if Alabama played Texas again, I think they'd wipe the floor with Texas. I think if
they
Alabama if
would
Alabama
learn
played
their
Oregon, I think they'd
yeah.
beat Oregon as well. And I think if we're looking at other teams that are looking that if we have three undefeated teams and we have a bunch of one-loss teams waiting to get that fourth slot, I think Alabama is going to get into the college football playoff because I mean they're very impressive. I mean whenever when I don't know the second half adjustments it's been the last few weeks has been tremendous by Nick Saban. And I mean the and this is a young team too. I mean, this team very much well, all of them could come back next season.
Yeah.
So, this is good. For college football, I mean, Nick Saban has him, I think, another champion, like he's brewing another championship contending team, uh, at least for next season, in my opinion in Alabama. And I think Jalen Milroe is just only going to get better as a passer. He's gaining confidence every week. I could see it. After being benched early in the season after the Texas game. So I think Alabama's on the right direction. Moving on to the last takeaway, we got number 14 Utah ending USC's playoff hopes with a game-winning field goal to beat them in LA in La La Land, 34-32. This was a hell of a game. I watched this game. Caleb Williams, 24-34, 256 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He did have his own touchdown was a rushing touchdown with 27 rushing yards. Taj Washington leading all receivers with 112 yards. Bryson Barnes had him a good game though. 14-23, 235 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Jaquindon Jackson led all rushers with
Yep.
117 yards and 26 carries. But the biggest play was a 26-yard run to get them down inside the 20. Bryson Barnes, who had 10 carries for 57 yards and a touchdown, and which basically set up their field goal kicker to hit a chippy and beat USC 34-32. I'll start with Christian. What are your thoughts on this game here?
Um, USC is exactly who we thought they were. This isn't a good
Yeah.
football team. Caleb Williams covered a lot of holes up for this team, and now I think he's been figured out because he didn't look great against Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame picked him off 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. He didn't even find the end zone with his arm here. I think his Heisman chances are done. This USC defense, they just have that issue. It's a lack of communication and not being on the same page. There's that, and then most importantly, Utah. Utah just knows how to grind games out. No Cam Rising, so Bryson Barnes comes in, and this is why it's always so important to have that quality backup. No, he doesn't do what Cam does, but they've simplified the game for him. They grind games out, and you just said it best. Jaquindon Jackson, he took this game over from the backfield.
Absolutely. He was running very strong right in between the tackles. Matt.
Yeah, 100% on what he said. I was wrong last week. I'll admit it. I thought Caleb Williams would have, had a nice comeback game. against good defense at home, but is he the number one quarterback in next year's draft? It's the question. I don't think so.
That's
Honestly,
that is a
I
very
mean, Drake May,
interesting question.
dropped the ball too, but it's like,
Drake May hasn't played well at all this year. He hasn't
yeah, I
played well
mean,
at all this
the
year.
quarterback situation's kind of dropping at this point. But I mean, you can always give it to Utah's rushing, their defense. They'll show up at all times, wherever they play. I mean, we're going to see tomorrow if they can slow down Oregon's offense with their defense and keep the running game going.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
absolutely, I agree. I think with Caleb Williams, interesting point you brought that up because I still think he is the number one talent. I mean, we haven't seen. I mean, he's got Patrick Mahomes in him. He's got the innovation in him. He's got the strong arm. He's got accuracy. I think we have to kind of look at how his offensive line is built. I mean, they're small in the trenches. I mean, he's one of the smaller offensive lines and defensive lines in college football when it comes
yeah,
to a major program. You look across the board. I mean, look at the defensive line next to Utah's offensive line. I mean, Utah's offensive line was an average of 6'6" guys over 300 pounds. USC had only like 6'2", 6'3" guys that were 260 pounds, right? Guys that are not power guys, guys that are more or less, kind of finesse guys, right, on the offensive line. And I go back to saying this about Lincoln Riley. It's the same thing as OU days. He just doesn't recruit defensive players. He's all
yeah,
focused on the offensive side, and you see it in his teams. He doesn't even recruit the offensive lines well, in my opinion. So and there's a lot of speculation that Lincoln Riley is looking to make that transition with Caleb Williams to the pros. We'll see what happens at the end of the season. But I mean, this USC team, we saw it from the get-go. I mean, winning a close one versus Arizona when they probably should have. Arizona's a tough team, but going to double overtime versus Arizona, losing the way
yeah.
you did against Notre Dame, that was
ASU,
big. You said what?
ASU too. I mean,
ASU,
they
yep, a
kept
close one against
ASU in the game
ASU,
when
a
they
close one against
early on
Colorado.
when they were struggling. Yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, and Utah just Kyle Whittingham has their number. I mean, as a coach, I mean, he just has their number. This is 3 times in a row that Utah's beaten USC, and so it's just sometimes the team has your number, especially this group of guys, the USC guys. And I think if Caleb Williams does come back next year, I mean, you'll see them again back in the top 10. I mean, you always have a chance with a quarterback talent like that. But I mean, Lincoln Riley's just got his work cut out for him because look, as soon as he left OU, Brent Venables, right, Christian? 1 year, he's got that team playing excellent defense. He's got his defensive guys in there,
yep.
and then that team is still better offensively than this USC team. They're offensively better than USC, and they won a close one against UCF last week. And teams are, some teams can have that they I think they can afford to the way that OU's been playing. They can afford to kind of
Just a hiccup.
loosen up a little bit. Yeah, just a little bit of a hiccup, but they still won. But it just says something about a coach who he's strictly offense. And all I gotta say is that USC really let a lot of people down this year, and hopefully next season that they'll come back on top. But I think Lincoln Riley, I think those rumors have some fluidity to it. I think Lincoln Riley is going to be going to the pros at some point, and it sucks for USC because he left OU when he had OU on top, and he kind of left them out to high and dry. They did a great job of hiring Brent Venables, but now USC is going over to the Big Ten, and if Lincoln Riley leaves leaves them high and dry again, I mean, who are they going to come in to take over that program? Going into the Big Ten, it's a different brand of football. And I think a lot of these Pac-12 teams are going to get a dose of reality when they go into the Big Ten. Smash mouth football, defensive football, physicality is different than on the Pac-12 level. They're all going to get a dose of reality when they go to the Big Ten. Washington, UCLA, USC, right? All of them are. Oregon. They're all going to get a dose of reality. So, kudos to Utah. winning that game. Utah actually would bode well in the Big Ten, in my opinion. But that's
Yeah,
just
because they play black and blue football. That's what I think
yeah.
of whenever I think of Big Ten football. It's black and blue. You got to be able to run the football, strong offensive lines, serviceable defenses on the other side of the ball. I mean, look at Wisconsin and the ability and their consistency that they've had over the years. Because Matt, what's the formula for success in Madison? Running the football and strong offensive lines, along with
Yes,
stingy
sir.
defenses.
Absolutely.
Win the
Absolutely.
trenches and run the football.
And that closed the book on week number 8 as we move into the week 9 AP Top 25. And number 1, we got Georgia. And the top 4, we got Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, and Florida State. The top 6 don't move. Washington rounds out the top 5 with Oklahoma State number 6 as they won a close one against UCF last week. And then Texas moves up a slot in the number 7. Oregon moves up a slot in the 8. And Alabama moves up a slot in the number 9. Penn State moves down 3 slots. And when I look at 7, 8, 9, and 10, we're talking about one-loss teams, best one-loss teams in the nation. There you go, right there. Those 4 teams, best one-loss teams in the nation. I think when it's all said and done, Oregon possibly may have 2 losses. Texas may have 2 losses. That's neither here or there because I think those 2 teams still have to play in their conference championship. And then Alabama still has to play still has a schedule, still has a decent schedule left. And then round out the top then going into the top 11 round outside the top 10, we got Oregon State at number 11 moving up a slot. Ole Miss number 12 moving up a slot. They tough game against Godly. They played Auburn in Auburn. And that game got close at the end too, by the way. Just saying, I still was watching that game late at night, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe Auburn, got it back in the kind of one score game." And then number 2, moving up a slot, we got number 13 Utah, and then number 14 Notre Dame, probably the best 2-loss team in the nation, along with LSU at number 14, LSU at 15, moving up 4 slots. It's Jaden Daniels just continues. If LSU didn't lose 2 games, man, Jaden Daniels would be at the top of the Heisman list. At number 16, we got. You agree? I agree. I mean, if they don't have 2 losses, Jaden Daniels probably running away with the Heisman this year. At number 16, we got Missouri moving up 4 slots. North Carolina moving down 7 slots with their loss to Virginia. That was a bad loss for them. At number 18, we got Louisville moving up 3 slots here. And then number 19, Air Force moving into the top 20 as they're 7-0. They got a tough game against Colorado State at Colorado State as they move up 3 slots. And then moving down 4 slots, we got Duke as they got a tough game against Louisville. We'll get to that game. Moving down another 4 slots at number 21, we got Tennessee. They go into Kentucky this week to play the Wildcats. And number 22, we got Tulane going in and playing Rice this week. And then number 23, 24, 25, we got UCLA, USC. And then congratulations to James Madison moving into the top 25 out of the Sun Belt Conference as they're 7-0 as well this year. So that is the AP Top 25, ladies and gentlemen, for week 9. And here we go. Week 9 games to watch. And I'll start with the first one first. Learn a lot of ranked matchups going on, but there's just a lot of pretty decent matchups here. I'll start with the first one. We got Colorado going into UCLA, number 23 UCLA. Colorado, Colorado at 4-3, UCLA at 5-2, coming in there. Colorado with a high-powered offense, led by Shedeur Sanders, over 2,400 yards, 21 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. How do you see this guy? How do you see this one shaking out? I'll start with Christian.
I just want to see how Colorado comes out and can they finish a football game, because the last time we saw them, they were up 29 and then they lose in double overtime to Stanford on a Friday night in Boulder. You've had a whole week off to recuperate, ice your wounds, look at what you've been able to do. UCLA, this is a tough team, and if anybody can match Colorado's offense, throw for throw and run for run. It's a Chip Kelly led team, and I think UCLA prevails in this one.
Matt.
I'm not going to disagree with you on this one. I mean, Chip Kelly, I mean, he's been in the league for a long time and he knows these kind of games. He's at home. Prime, we'll see if he's got his team ready. I mean, he went into that TCU game with some rest and took it to the Frogs. But you're going to the Rose Bowl against a UCLA team who's hungry with, one of the top coaches. Give me UCLA by 3.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough game for Colorado going into UCLA. I think they're gonna come in there with a chip on their shoulder, especially after the way that they lost to Stanford. Shedeur Sanders coming in here second in the nation in passing, at 345 yards per game. But also on the flip side, the Buffaloes have allowed 35 sacks, tied for second most in the FBS. So, and they're going against a top 10 team in the nation, led by Latu, who's top 10 with 6.5 sacks, 24 sacks as a team, as a whole for UCLA. So this is going to be a tough game for Colorado. I got UCLA winning this game. It's going to be a high scoring game in my opinion. I think Dante Moore is an amazing quarterback, but he's a young quarterback, right? And I think one thing that I will say is that I think the key to this game is going to be Carson Steele. The running game for UCLA. I don't think Dante Moore is going to affect the game like people probably will think. He's thrown 3 pick sixes in the last 3 games. He's going against probably one of the best two-way players and Travis Hunter, who could affect the game on that side of the football. I think my key is also for Colorado is how do you split the snaps of Travis Hunter, right? Because we saw how he ran out of gas against Elick Eilmanor in Stanford, right? And so he played a ton of snaps on offense. He's a great receiver. He's a good DB. Me and Christian talked about this last week. We think he should focus more of his time on the offensive side of the football. That's where we think he'll have more of an impact. But I think I got UCLA winning this football game at home here against Colorado. And I mean, hey, my prediction's holding up right. I mean, they're a 4 to 6 win team. They make the bowl game. They make a bowl game. That's it. That's all you can ever think. That's all you can ask of for Coach Prime with all those transfers coming in. You got to let him get all his recruits to come in.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is the next level for him. So next year, I mean, Colorado in the Big 12. You never know.
I think Colorado next year is probably going to be a lot better than what they are this season, especially on the defensive side of the ball. As they bring in some more of those recruits, they just brought in a few top 100 recruits already so far this year. One being a quarterback, one being I believe another DB. So he's slowly building that program up. Next game on the slate, we got number 3 Ohio State going into Camp Randall to face the Wisconsin Badgers, where it's always a tough place to play. Wisconsin, I have this at the top because Wisconsin is the leader in the Big Ten West, if I'm not mistaken, and Ohio State second place in the Big Ten East. So how do you see this one shaking? I'll go with Christian.
This has trap game written all over it. And I guess the
100%.
question I have about Ohio State is which version of your offense is going to show up? Are we going to see what we saw in South Bend a couple of weeks ago? Or are we going to see what we saw against Purdue? Because against Purdue, they were spreading the ball around. They were getting up and down the field. This is going to be a low-scoring and physical game. Wisconsin makes it interesting, but I think Ohio State prevails. Don't be surprised if Ohio State wins this game by at least a field goal. I just don't think that Wisconsin has an answer for Marvin Harrison Jr. He's the most unstoppable force amongst wide receivers in college football, makes the catches in traffic, stretches the field vertically. He's a red zone threat. If you don't
Mm-hmm.
put 2 on him, you're asking him to pick your secondary apart.
And you know what? That matchup between Marvin Harrison Jr. and Ricardo Hallman, who leads the Big Ten in 4 interceptions, that's going to be a good matchup in my opinion. But I honestly don't think it cares. I don't think it matters. I think Marvin Harrison beats. I mean, they had a good. He had a matchup last week. Penn State had a good secondary last week, and he torched them. So I think Christian's right. You could put anybody in college football on Marvin Harrison. He's just going to get his. He's on a tear in the last 4 games. I believe Marvin Harrison is last 4 games. He's got 20 last 3 games. He's got 25 receptions, 430 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Incredible. Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I think the factor is bringing Allen into the game. Braylon Allen from Wisconsin, 704 yards, 8 touchdowns. You played this game low and slow again against Ohio State. You know, Wisconsin, you go up in Camp Randall, it's not an easy place to play. So, all right, I'm taking this as my upset.
Uh-oh.
Oh, okay.
Wisconsin wins this game.
This is gonna be a tough game for Ohio State. I think when you look at the run defense from Ohio State, they rank 5th in yards allowed, 260, and 2nd in yards per play at 3.93, and 18th in yards in rushing yards allowed per game, and only 100. Braylon Allen is averaging 100.57 yards per game, coming off 145 yards against Illinois, and I think we talked about it earlier in the season. I thought Braylon Allen was the best running back next to, Blake Corum, Nicholas Singleton, Katron Allen. We just saw Ohio State shut down a 2-headed monster in Penn State. This is one guy. Braylon Allen's built in the mold of a Jonathan Taylor. He's built in the mold of Melvin Gordon. He's built in that mold. Ron Dane. Ohio State has a plethora, a long history, a lineage of great running backs, and Braylon Allen's falling in line on that. I do. With that being said, I do think Ohio State is going to win this game. I think JTT, he has a sack in the last 3 games. I think he has another sack or 2 in this game against the Badgers. I think that a guy in Braden Locke who had his first start last week is going to struggle against Ohio State defense. But if you can get the running game going with Braylon Allen and kind of slow this game down and make it a black and blue game, a tough physical game with that offensive line, I think Wisconsin may have a chance to upset Ohio State. I don't see it. I think I am along with the lines with Christian. I think 14.5 is a little too much being favored. I think if I'm a betting man, I take the points 14 plus 14.5 for Wisconsin. I think you'll do well with that.
And there's one more thing.
Izzy?
Yeah, go on ahead.
Hey, this one's for you, Sydney. Go Wisconsin. Hey, no, it's my sister. She's going there right now.
Good. What's up, little sis?
And look, there's 2 more things I'm looking for in this one. One, can Wisconsin neutralize that Ohio State ground attack and put this game in the hands of Kyle McCord? That's number 1. And then number 2, watch for Ohio State's pass rush. Last year, Jim Knowles would always send 6. Now, they're rushing 4 without blitzing guys. They rush 4. They keep that spy in the middle, and then they got everybody back in the secondary.
They got fast guys. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We got guys that can get up there. Yeah.
Yeah, and then moving on to our next game of the week. We got next game to watch. We got number 20 Duke going into Louisville and playing number 18 Louisville Cardinals. How do you guys see this one shaking out? I don't know what Riley Leonard his status is looking like. I doubt he will be ready for this guy. I mean, the way he looked in the last game, I'm not sure if he's gonna be a go. But if he is, that definitely plays a part in them possibly beating Louisville. How do you see this one shaking out, Christian?
I like Louisville in this one. Look, Duke, it's been real. You play hard, but without Riley Leonard, you really don't have much of a chance. This is a hostile environment you're going into, and this Louisville team they play so hard for one another, and they play really hard for their coach as well. Yeah, I think the Cardinals win this one.
Matt.
Yeah, I'm the same way with Christian. I mean, with Leonard, without him, I mean, it's a hostile environment. I mean, Izzy, with Notre Dame going into it. I give me the Cardinals by 10.
Yeah. If Riley Leonard doesn't play, I'm taking Louisville as well at home. But it just depends if Riley Leonard does play, it definitely plays into a factor that running attack just looks to be on point when he is behind center. So if he does play, give me Duke. But if he's not playing, give me Louisville to win this game. They're favored by 6. I actually would take those points if I'm Louisville. If I'm you, picking Louisville. Next on the slate, and this is probably if I had a game of the week to put, I would have put this one, but I got a rivalry game here. And number 1 Georgia going into the swamp to face the Florida Gators. How do you see this one playing out? I'll start with Christian.
I previewed this one on Tuesday. The dailyblitz.blog, by the way, go check that out.
Yes, sir.
This is a younger and a more inexperienced Georgia team. Let's just be real here. Jalen Carter, N'Kobe Dean, Jordan Davis, Stetson Bennett, they ain't walking through that door. Okay. When I look at Georgia this year, they're more battle tested, and that's a testament of the coach. I really think Kirby Smart is the best coach in the country, or he's up there. I really can't disagree with who. If you have Saban, if you have Kirby, I can't disagree with either. I think both of them they're pretty neck and neck. There's no Brock Bowers for Georgia, and
first game back without him.
Yeah, and I'm really curious to see how this offense is going to look without him. I mean, he's the glue that holds this offense together. And look at the way they use him in so many capacities, on jet sweeps, down the field, in the red zone as a wide receiver. They're getting him the ball on screens. He can block. Probably one of the best non-quarterback offensive players in college football. Florida slows games down, but unfortunately they can't stop the run, and Florida can't convert on third down. Georgia has the best defense in college football when it comes to limiting third downs. And what do I always say about third downs? It's your money down, because 1, it keeps your offense on the field. 2, it keeps their defense on the field. It keeps your defense on the sideline, and it keeps the opposing team's offense on the field. Florida makes it interesting in the first half, but I just think Georgia's championship pedigree, it's going to kick in the second half, and I like the Bulldogs.
Matt.
Yeah, I agree with him. I mean, Georgia wants to keep that number 1 pedigree, and this is the time to do so. I mean, you're pulling forward through the month of November to be that number 1 team and get your defense ready for the college football playoff. So I think Georgia is going to win this probably by a couple of touchdowns.
I think, oh man, this is gonna be a tough game, man. You got 2 of the more accurate quarterbacks in college football, Carson Beck and Graham Mertz. I think Carson Beck's number 6 in the nation in completion percentage, and Graham Mertz is number 3 in the nation in completion percentage. This is going to be the first game without Brock Bowers. I mean, he's out for the season, or he's expected to miss a month. So he might come back into for the college football playoff if they do make it. I know anytime you have the head ball coach come in and talk to you, that's got to be motivating for your team this week for Florida Gators. And like Christian said, man, they're a tough team on third down. With that being said, I think the Georgia Bulldogs are battle tested this year. I think they've been in some dog fights. I think this isn't doesn't change anything else. And this is also, if I'm not mistaken, this is on a neutral site game, right? So it's in Jacksonville, so it's not in the swamp or anything like that. So I think you'll see a nice Georgia presence there as well. So yeah, give me the Georgia Bulldogs. At least by a touchdown in this game. I'm not sure what the spread is. I'll look it up right now. I believe the spread is 14. I think it'll be a little closer than that, but give me the Georgia Bulldogs to win by a touchdown in this game. And then we have our game of the week, number 8 Oregon going into Salt Lake City to pay them Salt Lake City Slickers. The number 13 Utah Utes. That's what I call my girlfriend, Salt Lake City Slicker. Going in to play the number 13 Utah Utes. As they come off their big win against the Southern California Trojans. How do you see this one playing out? I'll start with Christian.
Izzy, I need you right here. I need you. Matt, I need you too. On my count.
Yes, sir,
1,
baby.
2, 3. Shameless plug. Number 1, baby. Look, Oregon, they have the most prolific offense in the country right now. 553 yards per game is what they average, and they can score at any point. And it's anchored by Bo Nix. And look, Bo Nix is getting an invite out by me in New York City. 19 touchdown passes and only 1 interception. So that shows you he takes damn good care of the football, and they're balanced. Because not only can they beat you with the passing attack, they can beat you with the running game. Bucky Irving, I think he's a running back that doesn't get the respect that he deserves. They win the trenches up front. I mean, I look at that game against Washington a few weeks ago. Both offensive lines did great. Bo Nix was only sacked 1 time. And we knew that Oregon's defense was going to be good under Dan Lanning. They average 17 points. They give up 17 points per game. Utah, on the other side with Utah, Cam Rising is out. What direction do they go in? And it's been the Bryson Barnes show. Now they may not score as many points, but they've simplified the game and they grind games out with the running game. Jaquindon Jackson, I think, is going to be a huge key for this game. I preview this one an hour before kickoff tomorrow.
Can't wait to see it, my boy.
Be on the lookout. I can't wait to release it.
Yep.
Matt, how do you see this one playing out?
God, I hate this.
This is gonna be a tough game,
I've been staring at this one before we started the show. Yes, because both defenses can bring it when they want. Oregon's offense is just that much better because Cameron Rising is not in there for Utah. Utah is not an easy place to play in. I should know that, being an ASU fan. Over the years, we won their tight games and everything, but give me Oregon to win this.
Yeah, and Utah's not a tough place because of the high elevation. I mean, it's and even Oregon has some higher elevation, but it's just that the elevation in Utah is something else.
No, it's out in the Pacific. Yes, different.
Yeah, it's something else. So that's got to be brought into account. I mean, Bo Nix has been a Heisman candidate all season. He's completing 78% of his passes. Both these teams can get after the quarterback. They have 25 sacks as a team. Both at the top, sharing the number 1 slot in the Pac-12, so they both can get after it. We already know, that Utah and Oregon both can get after it. When it comes to the quarterback play for Utah, I think they solidified. I think Nate Johnson gave them some inconsistency this year, but Bryson Barnes has given them some consistency this season. I think Bryson Barnes is a guy that has that element of running the football as well as passing the football. And we saw that against USC. With that being said, I think Oregon just has a little bit more. They just have. I think Bucky Irvin is a guy. I mean, we saw Marshawn Godley, who's the
Marshawn Lloyd.
The Marshawn Lloyd,
yes, sir.
gut up Utah a little bit on the running game last week. I think Bucky Irvin could do the same thing against Utah. I would watch out for that if I'm watching this game. I got Oregon winning a close one. I think it's going to be another dandy by a field goal. Whoever has the last possession wins this football game. I got Oregon winning this one, but this is definitely a game of the week. This is going to be a hell of a game. I will be tuning in. I can't wait to watch to read Christian's preview as he comes out with it. And you guys should watch it. I dropped the link down there at the dailyblitz.blog, so you guys don't want to miss his preview as number 8 Oregon goes against number 13 Utah. And then my upset of the week, as Matt already had his upset of the week with Wisconsin beating Ohio State, my upset of the week is actually Arizona over number 11 Oregon State. Some about Arizona, they play really tough this year. Even though I know that DJ Uiagalelei has played very well for Oregon State. 1,500 yards, 15 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. But I do like DeLaura from Arizona. 1,000 yards. He's passed for over 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. But that team can really get after it defensively as well. They're a high scoring offense, 452 yards total on the season. They play good defense as well, play better defense in terms of the numbers when it comes to Oregon State and them. So I like Arizona to beat them in Arizona this week as they play against each other. And that's my upset of the week. What about you, Chris? You got any upsets this week?
I don't, but if I do, I'll send it to you tomorrow before the game, and we'll chop it up about that.
We'll chop it up. All right, and then here are PSW Week 9 Heisman rankings. At number 1, man, at the number 1 top slide, I think he's going to run away with this. Michael Penix Jr. From Washington. Yeah, from Washington. I think he's going to run away with it. Yeah, and then at number 2, we got Jordan Travis from Florida State. Number 3, Dylan Gabriel from Oklahoma. He's been playing well of late. And then moving into the top 5 at number 4, Maserati Marv.
We got a wide out. Let's go.
We got a wide out finally amongst all these quarterbacks moving into the top 5. At number 5, J.J. McCarthy, who's been playing excellent football. Last week, 21-27, 287 yards. Michigan really hasn't played anyone yet. But, over 1,700 yards, 18 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 78% completion percentage. J.J. McCarthy's been pretty damn good this year for the Michigan Wolverines, along with 3 rushing touchdowns as well. And then in my 3 dark horses, I got Jaden Daniels, who I think if they didn't have 2 losses, I think Jaden Daniels would be running away with this Heisman. And then I got Bo Nix from Oregon and Drake May as well from UNC here as my dark horse for the Heisman rankings this week for Prime Sports World, guys. And that's a wrap, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. Lots of good games this weekend, so you guys want to drink responsibly. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast at Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And go ahead and check out the dailyblitz.blog. My man Christian Simpson, as he drops his previews for the college football year and the NFL season as well. And in case you missed this podcast, catch us on all streaming platforms where podcasts can be heard. That's Apple Podcasts, Samsung Podcasts, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, ladies and gentlemen. And as I like to say, ladies and gentlemen, if in case I missed you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
And as I like to compliment that, Izzy, Matt, holla at your boy.
Hey,
sayonara.
We got you, buddy. Go Diamondback.